Israel is intense. Few places offer so much per square kilometer to sustain the spirit, nourish the intellect, and stimulate the senses. It is a mix of immigrants from all over the world. There are dozens of nationalities, each of which adds its own spirituality, culture, and cuisine. This is the Promised Land, full of religious and historical monuments. This is the land of the Bible. The names resonate in the minds of its visitors: Jerusalem, Galilee, the Judean Desert, Jaffa, Masada, and the Jordan River. The events that took place in this land changed the course of history. Let's explore together and discover some of the most interesting and extraordinary facts about Israel. Why is it called Israel? Israel gets its name from the patriarch Jacob, who wrestled with an angel and prevailed. Because of that, the angel blessed him. Part of that blessing was the change of his name, which means he who wrestled with God. Israel became not only the new name of the patriarch Jacob, but also transformed into the name of the Jewish nation, as his children were called the children of Israel. But the land of Israel is known by other names, such as the land flowing with milk and honey. In the book of Exodus, God promises to bring the Israelites out of slavery in Egypt to a good and spacious land, a land flowing with milk and honey. The Hebrew word for Egypt in this passage is Mitzrayim, which literally means narrow place. In other words, a life of slavery is narrow and oppressive, while living in freedom is abundant and spacious. As a curiosity, when the State of Israel was re-established in 1948, several other names were proposed but rejected, including Zion, Judea, and New Judea. How was ancient Israel formed? According to the biblical account, it all began with the time of the patriarchs, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, wandering as nomadic shepherds, obeying God's call to dwell as pilgrims in the land of Canaan. Due to a terrible famine in those lands, Jacob and his sons went down to Egypt, where they would be protected by one of his sons, Joseph, who had been taken there as a slave and, by divine design, had become the governor of Egypt. Approximately 400 years later, the people of Israel had been enslaved by the Egyptians, and it was then that Moses, great-grandson of Jacob, guided by the God of Israel, would lead the liberation of his people and guide them through their journey in the desert for about 40 years. At the end of this period, and under the leadership of Joshua, Moses' assistant, they would conquer the land promised by God to the patriarchs, the land of Canaan, thus beginning the nation of Israel. How was the modern state of Israel formed? After nearly 2,000 years of Jewish diaspora around the world and enduring multiple persecutions and extermination attempts, following World War II, the United Nations approved a plan in November 1947 that envisioned the creation of two states in what was then the British Protectorate of Palestine, the Jewish state and the Palestinian state. On May 14, 1948, Israel's first Prime Minister, David Ben-Gurion, proclaimed the independence of the State of Israel. 8 hours later, several Arab states declared war on the new and small nation. This armed conflict lasted for 15 months and ended with the loss of 6,000 men from Israel's defense forces. This conflict is known as the War of Liberation, which is celebrated in Israel every year on the 5th of Iyar, known as Yom HaAtzmaut, commemorating the renewal of the Jewish state in the land of Israel. Israel, geographic facts. Israel is located in the Asian region known as the Middle East, a region that has been geopolitically and economically strategic for centuries, serving as a bridge to three continents: Europe, Asia, and Africa. The territory of Israel is a strip 424 kilometers long along the Mediterranean Sea and 115 kilometers at its widest point, but only 14.5 kilometers at its narrowest point. The country borders Lebanon to the north, Syria to the northeast, Jordan to the east, Egypt to the southwest, and the Mediterranean Sea to the west. The territory of Israel is divided into 6 districts or mehazot. Regions and landscapes. Israel can be divided into 3 parallel strips running from north to south, and a large desert area in the south. The first strip is the so-called coastal plain, parallel to the Mediterranean and bordered by fertile agricultural lands to the east. It is in this area where 50% of the population, the main ports, and the country's industrial zones are concentrated. The second strip is made up of different mountain ranges. These mountain ranges are interrupted in the north by the Jezreel Valley, the most fertile and rich valley in the country. In the north, we also find the Lake Kinneret or Sea of Galilee, the country's main water reservoir. The third strip is the Jordan Valley, which runs from north to south on the eastern edge of the country and is part of the Syrian-African Rift. This strip is crossed by the Jordan River, which ultimately flows into the Dead Sea, the lowest point on the entire earth. This strip extends from the Dead Sea to the Gulf of Eilat in the Red Sea. This section is called the Arava Valley, famous for its reddish lands and its ancient copper mines. The southern part of Israel is occupied by the Negev Desert, which represents about half of its territory. Regarding the territories under Palestinian Authority, they are two regions geographically separated from each other. The Gaza Strip, which is a narrow and elongated territory located on the Mediterranean coast, south of Israel, has an area of 360 square kilometers and a population of about 2 million inhabitants. The territory has been de facto governed by the Islamist movement Hamas since the year 2007. The West Bank is a larger territory than the Gaza Strip, with an area of 5,860 square kilometers and a population of about 3 million inhabitants. It is located to the west of the Jordan River and to the east of Israel. The territory is de facto governed by the Palestinian National Authority, but Israel maintains significant military and security control. The symbols of Israel. Israel is a country where religion holds great importance. 95.5% of the population identifies as a believer. One only needs to look at the nation's main symbols to confirm this. The primary symbol of the nation of Israel is the menorah, the seven-branched candelabrum that was found in the ancient Temple of Jerusalem. Today, it is featured on the national emblem, surrounded by olive leaves that symbolize the eternal desire for peace of this people. The flag of Israel was inspired by the colors of its traditional talith, the prayer shawl in Judaism, and also includes the Star of David in the center, an ancient symbol of Judaism. History of Jerusalem. After the fall of the Western Roman Empire, Jerusalem came under the control of the Byzantine Empire. With a few interruptions, Jerusalem remained in the hands of Byzantine patriarchs until the 7th century, when in the year 637 of our era, it fell into the hands of the Muslims. At that time, Caliph Omar visited Jerusalem and ordered the construction of a wooden mosque at the site where the Great Temple of Jerusalem once stood. This mosque was later replaced in the year 691 by the current Dome of the Rock, with the aim of rivaling the Christian churches in the city. The Al-Aqsa Mosque, the largest mosque on the esplanade of the mosques, was built by the Umayyad dynasty in the year 710 AD over the original ruins of Solomon's Temple. Christians in the Holy Land. For more than 4 centuries, Jerusalem and the entire region of ancient Israel remained under Muslim rule until the year 1099, when the Crusaders seized Jerusalem during the First Crusade. There, the Crusaders founded the Kingdom of Jerusalem, but this kingdom also had a strategic port, the Port of Acre. Situated in a wide bay near the city of Haifa, Acre served for just over 100 years as a major operations center for all the Crusaders. The city was the gateway for all pilgrims arriving in the Holy Land. When Acre became the last Crusader enclave in the region, Richard the Lionheart made it the capital of the Christian kingdom until it fell once again into Muslim hands in the year 1291 AD. Today, visitors can explore the ancient city of Acre and admire its walls and some structures from the old Crusader kingdom. Galilee and Christianity. Israel was the birthplace of Christianity, and 11 of the 12 apostles were Galileans. Galilee is full of significant places for Christianity. Nazareth, where Jesus lived for many years. Mount Tabor, where the transfiguration of Jesus took place. The Mount of Beatitudes, where Jesus delivered one of his most famous sermons, the Sermon on the Mount, and also performed one of his most renowned miracles, the multiplication of the loaves and fishes. The Sea of Galilee, where Jesus walked on water, surrounded by so many towns important in the history of Christianity, such as Capernaum, the place where Peter and Andrew lived. Religion in Israel. Israeli Jews are divided into 4 groups. The smallest group, the ultra-Orthodox community, represents about 9% of the total population. However, the projected percentage is much higher because, between 2012 and 2013, nearly 30% of the children in Israeli Jewish schools were ultra-Orthodox. Two other groups combined to form the religious Zionists, whose male members almost universally wear a Jewish cap called kippah and strictly observe the principles and traditions of Judaism as established in the scriptures. Those who define themselves as religious make up about 23% of the population. They serve in the military, many of them reaching high ranks, and tend to align with the political right. The majority of settlers belong to this group. The third group, about 24%, consists of less religious traditionalists. They follow practices that fit their lifestyle and ensure their children learn about their traditions, but oppose formal adherence to Judaism, seeing it as unnecessary. Finally, secular Jews make up 44% of the total population. Additionally, more than one-fifth of Israel's population, over 9 million people, belongs to the Arab minority, which is predominantly Muslim but also includes Christians and Druze. The walled city is also surrounded by emblematic places such as the Mount of Olives and Mount Zion. Likewise, to the north and west of the same city lies the modern city of Jerusalem. The Old City of Jerusalem is a World Heritage Site. Jerusalem has been one of the most disputed cities in all of history. The majestic Temple of Solomon, built in the 10th century BC, was destroyed by the army of Nebuchadnezzar in the 6th century BC. Incredibly, buildings from this time can still be admired by visiting some of the tunnels of Jerusalem. Jerusalem is full of buildings and emblematic places for the different faiths that lay claim to it. The Western Wall, the only remaining part of the Great Temple of Jerusalem, the Mount of Olives, the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, the Gardens of Gethsemane, the City of David, Hezekiah's tunnels, the Temple Mount, the Via Dolorosa, and the Cardo Maximus, to name a few. Jerusalem, the capital of Israel, is Jerusalem. Few cities can boast as much history as Jerusalem, called the Holy City, Golden Jerusalem, the City of David, Zion, the City of God. Its very name speaks to us of the City of Peace founded by King David in the year 1004 BC. Jerusalem has been the epicenter of Judaism for more than 3 millennia and the birthplace of Christianity itself, in addition to being considered by Muslims as their third most important city after Mecca and Medina. That is why Jerusalem today is a true melting pot of beliefs. The streets that are walked today in the city date back to the time of the Byzantine Empire, and the current walls to the 16th century. The Jordan River. We have mentioned the seismic origin of the Jordan Valley, which marks the country's border with Jordan. The Jordan River is not the only river in Israel, but it is the most famous and the longest. It originates near Mount Hermon, enters the Sea of Galilee, and from there, it drains to continue its route southward until it finally empties into the Dead Sea, forming the country's border with Jordan in this area. It is a place visited by hundreds of thousands of Christians every year to immerse themselves in the waters where Jesus was baptized. Additionally, the Jordan Valley is the lowest region on Earth. Masada National Park. In the year 66 AD, there was great unrest in the Roman province of Judea after the Romans crushed the rebels in Jerusalem. Masada remained the last Jewish stronghold, located atop an almost vertical promontory in the middle of the desert and considered impregnable. With fewer than 1,000 defenders, it was besieged by the Romans for more than 2 years before the walls were breached in the year 73. Exactly 60 years later, another uprising occurred, the rebellion led by Simon Bar Kokhba, whose guerrillas lived in caves near the Dead Sea. The Romans, under the command of Hadrian, neutralized the rebellion and annihilated the population. After the victory, Hadrian tried to erase all Jewish memory in the region. He prohibited Jews from living in Aelia Capitolina, the new name the Romans gave to Jerusalem. They also merged Syria with Judea and renamed the province Judea Syria Palestina, invoking the memory of the Philistines, a Mycenaean Greek people from the coast, enemies of the Jews for 1,000 years. The end of this rebellion is considered the beginning of the diaspora, that is, the dispersal of the Jewish people across all nations. Caesarea. Herod the Great built a magnificent city on the site of an ancient Phoenician port and dedicated it to Augustus Caesar, the Roman emperor. Around the year 6 BCE, it was designated as the official residence of the governors of Judea, and for 500 years, it served as the capital of Roman administration in the region. Most of the main points of interest are located within the Caesarea National Park. Caesarea was the site of major historical events, such as the Great Jewish Revolt in the year 66 CE, which began in Caesarea. In the year 68, the Roman general Vespasian was crowned emperor here. During the Bar Kokhba uprising, many other notable Jews lost their lives here, including the great sage and spiritual leader Rabbi Akiva in the year 135. The people of Israel. The Israeli nation is made up of ethnically and culturally diverse groups that reflect the populations of their countries of origin, forming a mosaic of cultures, values, and traditions, yet all consider Israel their home. The arrival of exiles has brought Jews from 80 different countries to Israel, including Latin Americans, Europeans, and people from the Middle East. For example, immigrants from the former Soviet Union now make up 15% of Israeli society, while Ethiopian Jews add further diversity to the social landscape. Israeli society itself has clearly defined sectors, including ultra-Orthodox Jews, secular European Jews, Ashkenazim, and more traditional Oriental Jews, Sephardim, along with the indigenous and more rural Arab population. Due to this diversity, Israel is now a multiracial and multicultural country, composed of immigrants from more than 120 countries. However, it is important to mention that of the 9.35 million people currently living in Israel, 75% are Jewish, and of those, 75% were born in Israel. They are known as Sabras. Demographic growth. Israel is a state with a high level of demographic growth. To put things into perspective, when the Jewish state was re-established in 1948, it had only 914,000 residents. Currently, this number has multiplied by 10. Among various factors, this is due to government policies that encouraged an increase in birth rates, with the current average birth rate at 3.1 children per family. Another major factor is Aliyah, a well-known term in Israel referring to the phenomenon of Jewish immigration to the land of Israel. These waves of immigration began around the year 1880, and according to some estimates, between 1840 and 2000, approximately 3.4 million people arrived in Israel. The term Aliyah is a Hebrew word meaning ascent, referencing the ancient pilgrimage to Jerusalem that took place every year in ancient Israel. Languages. Hebrew is one of the two official languages in Israel and was originally a biblical language spoken in the land of Israel for thousands of years. However, it ceased to be used as a common language but was revived as an active language after nearly 2,000 years and is currently spoken by more than 9 million people in Israel and various places around the world. Hebrew is a truly fascinating language, as it is read from right to left. In Hebrew, the alphabet is called alphabeto or aleph bet due to the names of its first two letters, aleph and bet. The aleph bet has 22 letters and does not include representations for vowels, which are added using a system of dots and lines. In Israel, another Semitic language is also spoken as an official language, Arabic, which is similar to Hebrew in some aspects. Holidays in Israel. In Israel, the day of rest begins on Friday afternoon and ends at nightfall on Saturday. This day is called Shabbat, which, in Judaism, represents a sacred day and an essential part of God's law, as, according to the same law, he rested on the seventh day after creating all things. Since Shabbat rules prohibit work on this day, Friday afternoons become a rush to complete necessary tasks before buses stop running, supermarkets close, and most pharmacies and restaurants shut down, especially in Jerusalem. Shabbat becomes a day for various family activities at home and in the synagogue. These activities culminate in the Shabbat dinner. Jewish tradition and history are even more tangible in the holidays that shape each year in Israel. The year begins with Rosh Hashanah in September, followed 10 days later by the most sacred day in Israel, Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement and Forgiveness. 5 days later, Israel celebrates Sukkot, when many Israelites temporarily sleep in tents for 7 days to commemorate the 40 years the people of Israel wandered in the desert. Throughout the year, holidays bring joy, such as Hanukkah, also called the Festival of Lights in winter, commemorating the victory of the Maccabees and the rededication of the Second Temple around 165 before Christ. But without a doubt, the most important holiday comes each spring, Passover, Pesach, when each family commemorates Israel's liberation from slavery in Egypt. Food in Israel. Since Israel is a multicultural and multiracial country, it offers a highly diverse and significant culinary scene, of which we will mention just a few highlights. For example, you can try its traditional pita bread, a light bread made from wheat flour with olive oil and very little yeast. It is baked at high temperatures so that the dough puffs up. Pita bread accompanies many of its other delicious dishes, such as falafel, tasty croquettes made from crushed chickpeas and fried in olive oil, or hummus, a creamy sauce made with chickpeas, tahini, lemon juice, and garlic, originating from Israel. Another popular fast food dish in Israel is shawarma, which is carved from the spit and placed inside pita bread, along with a selection of salads and spices. If you sit down for a meal, it is common to start with a meze, a selection of salads eaten with pita bread, or other dishes that are popular for specific festivities. For example, their famous jelly-filled donuts, called sufganiyat, are traditionally consumed during Hanukkah. Tel Aviv. A true Mediterranean tourist city, Tel Aviv represents the modern face of the Jewish state, a center of commerce and contemporary culture. Tel Aviv encapsulates the essence of modern Israel. It is a city of tall office buildings, shopping centers, golden beaches, restaurants, cafes, bars, and shops. But above all, it exudes an unlimited contagious energy. If Jerusalem represents the longing for the past by Jews who yearn to return to their biblical roots and the promise of future redemption, Tel Aviv focuses on the present. Tel Aviv is hedonistic, while Jerusalem is sacred. Israel has the highest number of startups per capita of any country, which is why it is known as the Startup Nation, becoming one of the world leaders in biotechnology, artificial intelligence, and high-tech agriculture. And the center of this revolution is called Tel Aviv. Near there, we find Jaffa, also known as Jaffo, an ancient port city and one of the oldest ports in the world, with a history dating back centuries, even to biblical times, when it was called Hope. Jaffa, which had flourished under the Ottomans, declined following the foundation of the modern state of Israel in 1948 and the growth of Tel Aviv, eventually being absorbed by the new northern city. However, the core of the old town has re-emerged as an appealing center for art, crafts, and restoration. The Mediterranean coast. On the beautiful Mediterranean coast of the country, we find the city of Haifa, which is located at the foot of Mount Carmel. It is the third largest city in Israel and an important hub for the country's renowned high-tech industries. Far from the bustling port, the coastal stretch between Haifa and the Lebanese border offers excellent beaches and much more. Steep slopes rise up the mountain, providing peaceful and attractive suburbs, Persian gardens, and the tomb of the former leader Baha'u'llah, Mirza Hussein Ali. Haifa is a model of coexistence, a place where Jews, Muslims, and Christians live together in perfect harmony. A mixed, non-religious city, it is the only one where buses run on Saturdays. The Red Sea. South of the Negev, we find one of Israel's most popular tourist destinations, Eilat, a dry and scorching place with much to offer. Isolated from the rest of Israel, it boasts the closest tropical waters to Europe, with remarkable marine life. Vacationers migrate instinctively, just like the billion birds that fly overhead twice a year on their journey back and forth between Africa, Europe, and Asia. The turquoise waters of the Red Sea, home to some of the world's most spectacular coral reefs, provide opportunities for snorkeling, diving, and swimming. The Negev Desert. The Hebrew word Negev means dry, and the Negev truly is. Precipitation varies from an annual average of 30 centimeters in the north to almost zero in Eilat. It is the only part of Israel that appears vast and limitless. It is as expansive as it seems, covering 60% of Israel's land area, but housing less than 10% of its population. Its rocky hills and dry ravines have attracted travelers, traders, and nomads since ancient times. There are magnificent craters, nature reserves, and a high-tech university, drawing ecologists and visitors interested in sustainable desert development. Here lies the modern town of Mitzpe Ramon, a magnet for creative minds, entrepreneurs, and seekers of serenity. The north and west of the Negev are plains with wadis, dry riverbeds that fill with occasional winter floods. From the Red Sea to the Dead Sea, somber mountains separate it from biblical Edom, now part of Jordan, alongside the stunning and sparsely populated Arava Valley, which offers some of Israel's most sublime desert landscapes. The Judean Desert. This region is the most arid and inhospitable in the Holy Land, and at the top of its mountains lies a barren, lunar landscape. In the valley, the rugged cliffs of the Judean Desert are carved by dry canyons that emerge from the cobalt-blue waters of the Dead Sea, which are oily and loaded with mineral salts. Its waters are incapable of sustaining life, hence its name. The Dead Sea, the lowest point on the surface of the earth, and also considered the saltiest lake in the world. This body of water, more than 70 kilometers long and 18 kilometers wide, combines stunning natural beauty with a fascinating ancient history. Since biblical times, the Dead Sea has also been known as the Salt Sea because its waters are 9 to 10 times salter than ocean water. The high mineral density allows bathers to float effortlessly, and its oily textured waters are considered to have healing properties. The water is so rich in minerals that it is 26% solid. The therapeutic qualities of the water and mud have been recognized since antiquity, and there are spas along its shores. Interestingly, many archaeologists and experts believe that deep within its waters lie the remains of the biblical cities of Sodom and Gomorrah. The economy of Israel. Israel's main exports include high-tech products, cut diamonds, industrial goods, agricultural products, chemicals, and security services. Israel has an exceptionally high number of high-tech companies and startups. It has more companies listed on the Nasdaq than any other country outside the United States and attracts more venture capital per capita than anywhere else, apart from China. One of the reasons for this success is that Israel is a small country with few natural resources, which has forced Israelis to be innovative from the very beginning. Israel has developed countless technological innovations in various fields. Just to mention a few examples: drip irrigation, the USB flash drive, ICQ, the first internet messaging system, and the Waze application. Agriculture in Israel. Israel is a global powerhouse in agricultural production, not necessarily in quantity, but in quality, efficiency, research, and technological advancements. The country has contributed to the development of the global agricultural industry through innovations such as genetically engineered seeds resistant to pests, prolonged droughts, and extreme climates. Examples include vines adapted to the harsh conditions of the desert, olive and tomato plants designed for irrigation with saline water, yielding 4 times more than those cultivated with fresh water. For years, Israel has been called the land flowing with milk and honey. And it is no coincidence that Israel is the country where cows produce the most milk in the world. Several Israeli cows are world champions, with an average production of 12,000 liters of milk per year, far surpassing the global farm production average of 7,000 liters per year. Israel is also the world's leader in desertification, as 60% of the country's territory consists of arid land with extreme climatic conditions. However, this barren land has been transformed into a fruitful garden through technological innovation. Consider this. In 1948, the country's cultivable land was around 185,000 hectares. Today, it exceeds 450,000 hectares. How has this been achieved? Through the optimal utilization of the most valuable resource in arid lands, water, using technologies such as wastewater recycling and drip irrigation, invented by the Israeli company Negev. Water in Israel. Water is a natural resource with unparalleled value worldwide, but in Israel, it is even more precious. This has led Israel to become the world's leading nation in water recycling, reclaiming nearly 90% of wastewater globally, followed by Spain with about 15% wastewater reuse. Additionally, Israel is home to the world's largest desalination plant, located in Ashkelon, in the south of the country, which produces approximately 330,000 cubic meters of water per day. Around 30% of the water consumed in Israel comes from one of the various desalination plants installed across the country. But Israel is not only a leader in water utilization, but also in water production. In Israel, the company WaterGen has created the first machine capable of transforming atmospheric air into drinking water. This Israeli system has already been tested in various places around the world. A similar invention was developed by the company Supi, which, in addition to generating water from air, mixes it with soap to help improve hygiene habits and reduce cases of diarrhea and respiratory infections globally. These small installations use solar energy for their operation, making them completely autonomous. The Israeli Army. The Israeli Army is considered the most prestigious institution in the country. Israel is a nation that, due to threats from several neighboring countries, remains under constant risk of war. During the short existence of the modern state of Israel, several wars have shaken the country after the War of Independence. The Suez War in 1956, the Six-Day War in 1967, the Yom Kippur War in 1973, the Lebanon War in 1982, the First Intifada from 1987 to 1993, and several more recent conflicts have shaped Israeli society, where military service is regarded as essential for the country's survival. In Israel, military service is mandatory, 24 months for women and 32 months for men. Additionally, all citizens who have completed their service remain reservists until the age of 40.